I believe you're going to be telling us all about geoengineering, which is something I
Yes.
don't actually know anything about, other than
Yes.
that they were doing it in Dubai, and they were very proud of their ability to change the weather. Which, to be fair, if you lived in a desert and you can make it rain, that is the stuff of gods in bygone eras.
Oh, absolutely. I must preface, this subject can get a bit prickly, and you
Mhm.
can easily steer off and go off down the rabbit hole, as we all do at times when we're really interested into a subject. Um, so I want to make sure that during this segment, I'm only dealing with facts, what they are saying,
Hmm.
and not any opinions or anything like that,
Sure.
and not to stray off. But geoengineering is the act of man made climate intervention. So, purposely changing the climate to suit a particular agenda, which it might be to thwart global warming or, all these types of things, and using various techniques such as solar radiation management, which we'll get into, stratospheric aerosol injection, and all this. Now, I didn't believe that this was happening. I'll be honest with you. I just didn't believe it at all. But then this story popped up not too long ago. So this was back in April. And this was over in America, where it says geoengineering test quietly launches salt crystals into the atmosphere, where an experiment in San Francisco could lead to brighter clouds that reflect sunlight. However, they didn't tell the public about it because they were afraid that people might protest and stop this particular act, because it's quite, well, it's very controversial, the
Hmm.
act of actually doing this. I don't know if you guys have heard of geoengineering before, if you've heard of cases about this
Yeah, like
before.
you, I was a bit skeptical. I'm becoming less skeptical. I'm very much interested in what you've got to say, believe me.
Brilliant. So I decided, let's start with a little bit of history. Um, so this is one of the most famous cases of, I guess, geoengineering that is in the UK, called RAF Rainmakers, which was back in 1952. This is a Guardian article that was published in August 2001. So this is also known as Project Cumulus, where the RAF conducted weather modification experiments, including the dispersal of salt, dry ice, or silver iodide particles into clouds, which tragically resulted in a flash flood in the village of Lynmouth, Devon.
Lovely village. It's not too far from my neck of the woods.
Oh, really?
Mm.
I've never been. I'd like to go.
We
Actually.
had to pack up our toys. I remember quite vividly. We packed up our toys and sent them to Lynmouth, and the
Oh,
disaster.
really?
Yeah,
Oh,
one of my first memories.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, and unfortunately, this experiment claimed over 35 lives, and survivors demanded an investigation into this, but their calls were sadly unanswered, and then it was later declassified decades later. Um, Another one was Project Storm Fury. This is one in America between 1962 to 1983.
Could have guessed from the name there, couldn't you, that it was an American one?
Yeah. They sought to weaken tropical cyclones, so that was the main idea of it, and to suppress hurricanes using silver iodide, another common element. Fidel Castro even accused the American government of weaponizing hurricanes, apparently, and that was
I remember
Castro.
reading about that, and I just thought he'd sort of lost the plot
Lost
at
the
the
plot.
time. Yeah.
However, it was eventually determined that most hurricanes lack sufficient supercooled water for cloud seeding to be effective, leading to the project's closure later on. Another one is Operation Popeye, which is this was back in 67 to 72, where a weather modification program aimed at increasing rainfall over selected areas in Vietnam to hinder enemy movement. And this highly classified program, allegedly sponsored by the Secretary of State Henry Kissinger at the time and the CIA, without the Secretary of Defense's authorization, involved cloud seeding to disrupt transportation routes. Now, if you look into the media now in modern times, you would think that this was called a crackpot conspiracy theory, but no, the media are saying, and if we could play this, of course, for the viewers,
I can do that for you.
thank you very much. They're saying it's pretty much safe.
They anticipate at least another 200 ground cloud seeding machines to be put in before next season.
And Ginger, this is such a cool concept, but is it too good to be true? I mean, how do we know that the chemicals that they're spraying from the air aren't bad for us or the planet?
The good news is we've been doing this since the 1940s and 50s. Other countries do it, and there have been a lot of research projects that have shown that the silver iodide, for example, is not found. It's negligible once it gets down to ground level.
So, again, I don't want to be too skeptical, but is there anything wrong with manipulating nature like this?
I think that's the question we should have asked when we built every single parking lot and every rooftop. We have been manipulating weather with us for a very long time. I do think that looking at and continuing research on when these programs get bigger, if it will affect people downstream, that needs to be watched.
At least we're manipulating it now to help the planet.
So there you go. Manipulation of the weather to help the planet is the
Silver iodine is safe and effective.
yeah. No, and we've heard that before.
Haven't we
That turn
just?
of phrase. We'll get in trouble if we say where we heard that, though.
Yeah, exactly true. Any thoughts so far, gents?
So my initial, I'm a psychologist. I'm not a meteorologist or, a climate scientist, thankfully. But my understanding is that we still don't have a complete understanding of the climate, and thus, by interfering with it, we, to my sort of lay perspective, and this is just my sort of gut feeling here, we stand to potentially do more harm than good, because, of course, we can only seek to really emulate nature, but it's very difficult to surpass it in my understanding of the world.
I totally agree. We have a small holding up in East Yorkshire, with just a few, horses and a few chickens and maybe fattening beasts and all that kind of stuff. It's only a few acres. But we are in the country, and we've had that small holding, I don't know, like 40 years or something like that. And when you live in the country, you do tend to look skywards. You've got a few plants, you maybe got a few strawberries, you've got a bit of this and a bit of that in your small holding. So we tend to make much more of weather than your city dweller.
Mm-hmm.
I'm no longer a city slicker. I'm a country bumpkin. I've switched.
I've gone the other way. So,
well, my wife is total bumpkin. But we look up, and we were walking the dogs the other day, and it was a beautiful, clear sky. And this is not the first time this happened. A beautiful, beautiful. And I said to a neighbour, a village, and we were just walking past his cottage. And I said, "What a beautiful evening! It's a really beautiful summer's evening." And then we saw almost immediately, 2 or 3 trails.
Mm-hmm.
And now I don't know what the trails were, and 2 or 3 aeroplanes, quite high, I would say 25,000 feet up, and crisscross. And we're not on a flight path. Now, that also doesn't mean necessarily anything. But yet again, there was this whiteout with the sun disappearing and just trying to fight its way through a white muslin tablecloth kind of thing. And it's happened for me just too many times for me to believe that this is all coincidence. And on my channel, I have lots of people sending stuff. And they send it, this is the sky this morning over Chelmsford, or this is the sky this morning over Chippenham, or whatever it is. And it looks to me weird. And then I've got skeptics who say, oh, well, basically, where are the logistics? Where are the pilots? Where's this? And they take it from that point of view. Not that it's not happening. They say, oh, well, it couldn't be kept a secret, this kind of thing. Mm-hmm. But I know when I look up, and so do my bigger landowning, proper landowning friends, not smallholders, but they look up and they say, there's something not right. There's something not right. And we don't know what it is.
I think it's definitely worth, I would never ever turn my nose down, or nobody should be turning their nose down to others who are questioning this sort of thing. I mean, like I said, it's a prickly subject because you can easily come to conclusions very quickly. People can just throw all sorts of things, but I think it's one of those things that I think it's a legitimate question to be asking. With regards to silver iodide, after them saying it's completely safe and effective, well, I had a little look, and there are journals about the possible effects of silver iodide and many other chemicals that have been used for cloud seeding and its possible effects. And it's not good, I'll be honest. Here's one. It's JSTOR. I can't even remember how you properly say it, but this
JSTOR.
JSTOR.
Believe me, I'm very well acquainted.
Oh, you were
with them.
very well equipped.
Unfortunately.
I should have looked up how you properly say that one. But there's plenty, including the National Library of Medicine, saying the potential risk of acute toxicity using this sort of stuff. So I don't know. I think it's a bit risky to be using silver iodide for too long. And of course, this has been happening since the 50s, maybe even possibly the 40s. So the fact that the media now in this era are saying, no, it's completely fine, don't worry about it. But there are still publications coming out saying, no, this is really, really bad. So I don't know, who's lying is my question with that. So then I decided, after all of this, I'm going to send off some freedom of information requests to the UK government, the Met Office, the UKRI, which is the research body or the Research Council. And if we could show the Met Office funding screenshot that I got. So this is what I received back. So the Met Office, Britain's forecaster, disclosed receiving funding for their involvement in geoengineering research over the past 5 years. They received £152,046 from the Met Office Hadley Centre Climate Programme, all to do with geoengineering. So that's climate intervention using SRM or stratospheric aerosol injection as well. And they also received $200,000 from a NGO called Silver Lining.
Huh.
And I thought, who are they? I've never heard of these guys before. So I did a bit of digging, and this is their website that you can go and see. Silver Lining, I mean, it's a big giveaway with the title.
I wonder what they do. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's all to do with, equity. There's also, I don't know if I can have a look there. In fact, no, if we just keep going. I looked into who has been bankrolling Silver Lining, and it's a particular family. Okay, that says not. That's gone. Okay, that's strange.
Oh, we might be able to refresh it.
Oh, that's a bit strange. It's gone. That's really weird. Well, I've already
refresh.
I've had the screenshot for a previous video on my YouTube channel about this, but I've got all the information here. Silver Lining recently announced a $20.5 million in funding to advance its governance and equity initiatives on near-term climate risk and climate intervention. Moreover, they have ties to the wealthy Pritzker family in the US, who contribute to the NGO through the Pritzker Innovation Fund. And they are ranked 6th in... Oh, it's not there for some weird reason. But they ranked 6th in... by Forbes among the wealthiest in the US family in the US. So a substantial donor. And they had an article on their website announcing this big $20.5 million. So I don't know why that's gone. I don't know why they've deleted that. That's news to me. I wasn't expecting that. But they also have ties right here with the United States. This is Congress, where they have mandated a research plan and research government framework in relation to solar radiation management. And this framework includes scenarios for solar radiation modification, international cooperation, and frameworks for physical aspects of solar radiation modification. And there is a particular, if I can find it, there is a particular graphic that they use. I'm going to try and find it now in real time. But it's a graphic that they've shown in this document that shows all the different types of, here it is, SRM climate interventions. So you've got space-based methods, which includes putting a giant disk into space.
Is that like a solar mirror? Is that, I know that that's something that's been considered. I don't know whether that's actually something else, and
No.
I just remembered that term and I'm misapplying it. I'll quickly have a look.
But then you also have other methods here, increasing the amount of SAI, which is obviously stratospheric aerosol that you can see here. Marine cloud brightening, which is another one. That's like the San Francisco story we heard earlier, by putting in salt crystals to increase the brightness of clouds in order to reflect sunlight. And increasing, I think it's to do with it's sort of like when a volcanic eruption happens and all the ash clouds, like it's sort of replicating that.
And that can be quite
Certainly what it
stark.
looks like from our farm. Yeah.
And that's kind of their sort of way of doing it. The director of this silver lining actually commented on a particular man, and of course he's cropped up, Bill Gates, where this executive director of this NGO gave a good review on his book, Climate Intervention, How to Avoid a Climate Disaster, where she says in this article, "We are grateful for Gates's support of our field, and we need more individuals, organizations, and governments who are concerned about our escalating climate emergency to support and invest in our field of study. Research is key to solving the issues of feasibility, impact, and governance that currently exists in our field, and no group can achieve that research without the investment and support required to make it possible. We at Silver Lining hope that Bill Gates' recognition of our critical work encourages others to, regardless of background or prior knowledge of climate intervention, to do more of their own research to better understand the potential of climate intervention." She also co-authored another one, and I'm sorry to go real down the rabbit hole, I guess, but the more you find...
I wonder if this company, this Silver Lining company, has a goal for 2030 by any chance.
Well. And yes, they do. She co-wrote an article called "Can We Geoengineer Our Way Out of Climate Change?" This was published back in 2017, to which it reads, "During the agricultural, industrial, and digital revolutions of the past 150 years, we have arguably been accidentally engineering the Earth system. We lit the planet where it was dark. We transplanted species, paved forests, emitted carbon, moved rivers, and changed the Earth's chemistry. Could we now apply the advances of the fourth industrial revolution to protect the natural systems we rely on?" And this entire article goes through that vision, which also shows this graphic.
How do the people who are sponsoring in big money solar panels feel about this? I mean, they're covering Yorkshire with solar panels and now trying to blot out the sun. Exactly who's doing what to whom and why? I mean, it's all... Why would you put solar panels in and then sponsor people blocking out the sun? And California without sun... I mean, their vineyards, their market gardens,
biodiversity there,
the whole thing.
Yeah, it would thwart.
Mind you, because we all know, don't we? We're trying to rationalise this, aren't we?
Yeah.
How stupid is that? Us. I mean, who know? I mean, what are we talking about? We know exactly what's going on, don't we? They're Malthusians, they're crooks, they're gangsters, and this is about political control. It's about making money. This is all about making money. Isn't it? It's about money.
It's a climate mafia.
Yeah,
that's what it is, because it's $1 trillion industry, even more. So if they can get more grants, sponsorships, if they could put their hands in other people's pockets to move some things around, get some things
because
going.
Of course governments grant lots of exceptions to green technology because they want the innovations to progress, which means that there's a very strong incentive to invest in these industries, however fruitful or fruitless they might be, pun intended. And it's just this weird symbiotic relationship between governments, because we've been seeing lots and lots of green money, if you will, coming into politics again. And one would only conclude from that they're trying to influence politics even further in their favour to get these tax breaks, even more favourable treatment from the state, to allow them to make even more money from it than they would otherwise.
Well, my landowning friends and I complain, I'm trying to explain them that these great wind turbines don't work. They just don't work. Do the numbers. It's ridiculous.
They have to bury the blades as well.
I know.
They have to bury them in the desert.
They don't get any of this. But the general response is, Godfrey, they say, how would I afford the school fees if I didn't have these things on my land? You know, they pay me 100 or 200,000 pounds a year for these things. I suppose I put 3 kids through school and university. That's right. Everybody's got their hand on the till, annoyingly, except me. I want my hand in the till. I never seem to make it work.
Yeah.
Even when it's an MEP where you can put a shovel into the kitty, I didn't do that either. There's something wrong with me, I think.
It's got nothing to do with the climate. It's to do with funding. But this is a screenshot from my other Freedom of Information request to do with funding with the UKRI, that's the United Kingdom's research initiative. According to the UKRI, they do hold relevant information with regards to funding geoengineering projects in the UK. But they point out that it's already, quote, reasonably accessible to the public, which is a bit of a lie, which means it's not, via their Gateway research platform. They recommended specific searches like geoengineering, solar radiation management, earth radiation management, greenhouse gas removal, and carbon dioxide removal. These searches yielded details of 327 projects that have been funded in the UK, with an additional 7 if you type in stratospheric aerosol injection. And here is the website that you can go to have a little look for yourself. On the side there, you can see the amount of money that has been pumped through and the dates, and it gives you a bit more. It gives you a bit more details when you click on them. They stress that these are hypothetical projects, so using climate modeling systems, so they're not real experimentations. However, I did send another request to ask about real experimentations, and they replied saying that out of all these 327 projects, there may be some physical experimentation hidden within. So there's a lot to go through still, and there's a lot of money being poured in. I reckon over at least 10 million being put in, or around that sort of ballpark figure.
Don't we?
Yeah,
Absolutely.
I made a video on this and put that out on X and YouTube. It's gotten some good views, but I think it needs to go.
We need more of us need
push
to
it
put
out.
our shoulder behind it, because I don't want to be breathing in silver iodine.
No.
Or whatever it bloody well called.
I asked about consent, so the public awareness and consent, because if there are projects to do with climate intervention, the public needs to know about this. And they replied, the Natural Environment Research Council replied saying, well, there was a public dialogue and consent. There was a meeting done. The Met Office responded that they have no information regarding awareness and consent, but these guys said that there was a public dialogue on geoengineering in 2011, to which, oh no, that's not it. Sorry, I need to go back. Apologies. I'll go back. To which 85 participants turned up, including 74 experts and stakeholders. And according to this report, back in 2010 or 2011, participants felt heard and appreciated during the discussions with scientists. However, it's worth noting that the only media coverage of this event emerged 3 years later, and it was on BBC Radio 4's Today programme in 2014. That's their idea of public awareness and consent with this. So nothing, really.
Yeah.
And I don't know about you, there's a lot more to this than what I've found. This is what they're, I hate to say it like this, but this is what they're telling me.
Mm-hmm.
So there's obviously a lot more information.
A whole heap of stuff they're not telling, yeah.
So this investigation is still ongoing. I'm committed to finding out more. And, you know, if I can't do it by myself. So if anyone wants to, you know, come on board and help, you're more than welcome to.
So one thing I will say about this is that from my time in academic research, you couldn't, you know, get anything past an ethics committee, at least in psychology, at least. You know, they questioned everything to a degree which took me, you know, I knew about research ethics. I was doing a research-focused master's at the time, at one point at least. And even then, there were things that they're picking up on that I never would have thought would have mattered. Like things like, oh, will the link be able to be accessed on multiple different devices other than just a web page? Can you use a mobile phone? And that was the consideration of an ethics committee for psychological research. So you look at something like this, which has the potential to affect hundreds of thousands of people, potentially, if not millions, depending on where they do it. I would imagine they'd probably do it in a rural area, if they're at least trying to be responsible. But my worry is that with an experiment like this, the ethical clearance may well be, just get us results. This is a very important thing that we need to develop, and therefore don't worry about that. Because I don't know how this sort of research would ever pass the ethical standards that I had to uphold when conducting research. And there's a sort of potential here, just, as a general researcher, of unintended consequences, because it's dealing with something that we don't fully understand.
Exactly.
And
they all say it. On that silver lining, I don't know if we could quickly go back to the silver lining. Let me try.
Should be able to, yeah.
Oh, sorry, that's my fault. There is on if we go on the about us, there is a quote that I'm going to try and find this. Apologies, I've just remembered. Save Climate Initiative. There is a quote. Here it is. So this is the director of Silver Lining saying this.
Mm-hmm.
Climate change is here. We are experiencing its devastating effects in recent extreme events. The Safe Climate Research Initiative supports research on promising means of reducing warming rapidly to help keep safe and natural systems stable. We do not have enough information to know whether climate interventions are viable or can be undertaken safely. The work of these groundbreaking research teams will help ensure we have science to inform decisions in this critical area.
Mm-hmm.
So they're openly admitting that they don't know, they don't have enough information, and they don't know whether it can be undertaken safely. Yet there's money being thrown around, and there's more of it.
Yeah. So the sums of money that I at least saw on the screen of 100,000 to $1 million, these are the sorts of sums that you do see in 100,000 for perhaps a small scale research project, $1 million for a slightly larger scale one. Those do indicate they are conducting research. It's not covertly funding anything necessarily.
Yeah, fair point.
And so I would say that perhaps if there is something like that going on, I don't know personally, it's not necessarily going through these research means that you've got here, but those do seem to be sort of pilot studies, if you pardon the pun, and further research on this sort of thing. And although I do support research, I think that perhaps the urgency of the tone of this statement suggests that they're going to overlook some of the ethical considerations and some of the potential for the people that might be affected by these practical research, I suppose. That they're going to overlook their concerns.
Do we risk this as a potential rabbit hole? I'm afraid. How many people are actually buying into all this kind of ludicrous nonsense? I mean, the Met Office. We looked at a clip from the Met Office telling us we had the hottest May for years and years and years.
Yeah,
Yorkshire froze to death. We've. Bloody ridiculous.
Yeah.
We've all got our vests and heavy woolies on again and all the rest of it. We have a small swimming pool, which we've been in once up to now. July's been, June was no better. And the one thing, British people were, or most people, I suppose, were conned easily because viruses and immunology, people go, oh, I can't see it's a bug. I've got this bug. I'm going to die, kind of rubbish. But the British do weather.
Yeah, exactly.
And every time you meet somebody, if you're walking down the country lane, it's brightened up, isn't it?
Yeah.
And when is it going to come that people are going to say, bugger me, they're at it again, aren't they? And, this sooner or later, you can't fool the Englishman on weather.
No, you can't.
That's all he does. That's all he thinks about.
It's true. Well, I as much as it's a dark, horrible subject, and I really disagree with it, it's I've kind of taken quite a liking into researching into this particular topic because I don't feel insane talking about it, put it that way. But that's what I have. There's a lot more information, but of course, time constraints. But yeah, hopefully we'll get some more information soon. And like I said, if anyone wants to reach out and help, I can't do this by myself.
Yeah, well, I'll certainly, if
Absolutely.
you come on, man, I'll be doing the same thing. I was saying, can anybody, because I've got so much economic and other stuff, but I've got, actually, one of the things with having a sort of a semi-boutique following, if you will, but for bigger or for better or for worse or smaller, is that an awful bit like the local pub. Somebody somewhere will know how to do that.
Yeah.
If you go to the pub, don't you? Somebody will know. You need, who knows how to grow chrysanthemums, you know?
Yeah.
There was about two guys who said, "Oh, I don't know, but there's a no allotment. He knows how to do it." And I said, "I've got a Morris Minor 1000 sort of classic car thing, and I don't know anything about cars, and I wanted to find somebody to bash it with the mallet." There's somebody in the college. I've been restoring those for years. And I think you've got that kind of following. You'll find people who will say, "Yeah, yeah."
I know how to do that.
And again, I could do that, or I could do that, or what bit of that? It's a big subject. What bit? I could do that bit. Maybe.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, we could. I think a lot of people would like to become involved in that.
Cool.
Yeah.
I hope they do.
I hope you appreciated that segment from the podcast of the Lotus Eaters. And if you want to see what else we're up to, you can follow Connor's series, Tomlinson Talks, this one about how to prevent population collapse with Paul Morland. And if you want to see all of the other work we put out, we always post links to our Twitter. Thank you for watching, and goodbye.